Szívesen köszöntök mindenkit, különösen is vendégünket. Ulrich Teichler professzor, emeritus professzor, a Kassel Egyetemről nyugdíjban. Pár mondatban szeretném őt bemutatni. Az ő beleegyezésével ezt most magyarul tudom megtenni, mert önöknek mutatom be. Egyetértett azzal, hogy majd mondani fogok, hogy meg tudod ezt így fog róla mondani, de azt kell mindenki a jó. Szóval, Teichler professzor, Szóval Teichler professzor mindenben érettségizett, szociológiát tanult a Berlini Szabad Egyetemen, Max Planck Tudományos Intézetben dolgozott Berlinben, Max Planck Oktatáskutató Intézetben dolgozott Berlinben, a Brinai Egyetemen doktorált, japán oktatási rendszeréről szóló disszertációjával. 1978 óta Teichler professzor a szakképzés és felsőoktatási központnak a vezetője a Kassel Egyetemen, amit ide a szerző említette az az, hogy ő alapította ezt a központot. Tanított Németországban, Ausztriában, Hollandiában, Japánban, az Egyesült Államokban és Argentínában. Először professzorságot az Egyesült Államokban Northwestern University-n szerzett, azután a Hiroshimai Egyetem is kinevezte őt professzornak. A témái közül főképpen a felsőoktatás, a felsőoktatás struktúrája és a utóbbi években a nemzetközi együttműködés és a mobilitás szerepelnek. Tudományos tevékenysége mellett tudománypolitikai grémiumnak is aktív tagja. 88 óta a részben által alapított felsőoktatási kutató konzorciumának a igazgatósági tagja, SHARE-nek hívják ezt a szervezetet. 88-89-ben ő volt a titkára ennek a szervezetnek, 92 és 98 között pedig a vezetője, előjárója, így van írva. 92-től ezen a SHARE átvette a központját a Kasseli Egyetemen szervezett nemzetközi felsőoktatási kutatóközponthoz, és 97 és 2001 között az Európai Felsőoktatási Társaságnak az elnöke is volt. Ez a társaság, zárójelben jegyzem meg, két társaság van a felsőoktatásban, Európában. Az egyik társaság az elsősorban a kutatóké, a másik társaság elsősorban a felsőoktatási vezetőké, ez az EAIL, ez az utóbb említett a felsőoktatási vezetők társasága, és itt fel van még sorolva, hogy hány főjövőknek a szerkesztő bizottság tagja. Ez volt a hivatalos rész, de most jön a magánrész, aminek egy részét ő már elmondta délelőtt egy ülésünkön, hogy hogyan találkoztunk először. A 90-es évek elején értesült Magyarországon a SHARE-ről, ami néhány évvel korábban alapítódott meg, és meghívott bennünket a SHARE vezetősége, hogy ezentúl ne csak a nyugati része, a keleti része is legyen részt a SHARE munkájában, és így találkoztunk először. Ugye ez semmi különös nincs, ami érdekesebb az, hogy volt közöttünk kezdetől fogva egyfajta szimpátia. Én legalábbis mindig ezt éreztem. Azt nem tudom pontosan megmondani, hogy mit hozta ezt a szimpátiát. Talán az, hogy én most úgy gondolom, hogy legalább az, hogy az európai kutatói közösségből általában úgy kevesebb számban, olaszok voltak, vidámak voltak, de a németekben volt leginkább az együttértés, ami egy ilyen kezdő kelet-európai társaságnak kiáll, és hát ebben a vonatkozásban Ulrich Teichler ezt került meg leginkább közölt, hogy lakás, a családi összejövetelek is szerepeltek ebben, és hát én azért nagyon örülök, hogy Teichler professzor vállalta azt itt megjelenni, és nagyon köszönöm kolléganőmnek, Huszai Gabriellához, hogy megtalálta Teichler professzort, és meghívta őt, és most már nem először történt ez meg, hanem sokat szorra, úgyhogy én nagyon megtisztelve érzem magam, és személyesen nagyon boldog vagyok attól, hogy ezt a szekcióülést én elnökölhetem. What I told you right now was two issues, if you want. The one was an official one, as I told the profession here on the green side of the slide. But I made a personal remark on the origin of our connections from my point of view. Since you told the story, the first part of the story is a professzor úrnak a előadása itt látható, mármint a címe, és angolul tudom megtartani, hogy tekintettel arra, hogy a többségnek nyilván az angol az első mutatás. It is your turn now. Take the floor and
dear colleague, this is a real great honor for me to be invited to your annual Congress, and of course, especially on this occasion, where we can also celebrate Tamas Kozma's 75th birthday, because I know he has done very much for the Hungarian scene, not only that we know it internationally, but what it has been for all education research and special emphasis on higher education research. So it's a great honor for me to be here on this special occasion and see all of you. Of course, immediately after lunch it's a very challenging, so I hope you survive. But we had a start with a presentation, just some words by Tamas Kozma about me. Well, he apologized to me that he said this in Hungarian, but I think this was meant very, very much as friendship, that everybody understand this. And now it's interesting for me, you see, I do not know Hungarian, but still I try to follow. We have a lot of universal words, so I could see what was going on. And I think what I could understand as somebody who is not knowing the Hungarian language, that he did not only make this usual lists of what was happening in CV, but after he made this, he made many very special remarks. I'm sure that it was very impressive. So you see, I believe if I would know Hungarian, I would have said now, thank you very much, Tamas, for this nice words. This was the second most impressive words I ever have heard about me in my life. Now you are all interested in what I'm saying about the most interesting. You see the famous higher education researcher Martin Shaw, he introduced me and said, if you look at his CV, you notice that he is 99 years old, but we preserved him very well so he can still talk with us. So I thought this was very impressive, although it was very impressive what you said. I had to tell this story. Thank you very much for your nice way of going. I know you all involved in different fields of education research as part of this conference. Yeah, I worked, as you have heard, in the Max Planck Institute for Educational Research, and I was sitting there on some evaluation committee, so I could see learn something of the different branches. And I think it helped everybody that I got to know different educational research. But still, I must say, my expertise, real expertise is in the area of higher education. So when I was preparing this meeting and I was wondering what I should say to you, I have to find something which is interesting for all education branches. And I said, what might be interesting for all education branches is a professor. Because you're all suffering in all branches from professors. Yeah? So in this way, it's good. I thought it's a theme which is all interesting for everybody. You know, I make my presentation in English, although I know many of you know German, but some of you know only English, and nowadays it's lingua franca, so I present this in English. But I have to, for those, I said most of you know enough German to know that I have a problem with my theme. You see, I call it academic profession. This is a word in English which is including all the scholars in higher education or research centers. But I tell you, in Germany we have no word of academic profession. We either use, for the senior ranks, the title professor, or we have the official word, Hochschullehrer, which is of course a joke because the professors like more research and teaching, but still the official terminology for professional statistics is Hochschullehrer. But Hochschullehrer is only on senior academics. So we have no term like engineers, and it includes junior engineers, senior engineers. We don't have it in Germany on this crazy profession where I'm working. We either call them Hochschullehrer, and then these are the senior people. Or the others, we can have different names like wissenschaftlicher Mitarbeiter or something like this. So we have no term, and I think this is very interesting. So it means, according to our German tradition, I know also there have been a lot of historical links between Germany and Hungary, so it might be similar in Hungary, but I have not asked you before, the colleagues. But as I said, in Germany, we have our terms underscore very much the distance between the seniors and the juniors. So this is just, I wanted to say before, but my main theme is not the difference of, I will come back all the time about difference between seniors and juniors, but my main theme will be more on the differences of this profession in different European countries. You know, sometimes when we are talking about the universities, we talk about as if we have more or less the idea, it's the same idea worldwide. I don't know, some people talk about the traditions of the University of Bologna, Paris, some 800 years ago, or some people talk about Humboldt 200 years ago. But basically we don't believe it's Bologna, Paris, or Berlin, but we believe this is more or less universal, of the university. So, and certainly we have some ideas of international, global, and universal. So, for example, I believe that in principle, the idea what is truth and what is quality in physics will be not so extremely different from Hungary or China or the United States. So we have elements which are universal. We have elements which are global, which are international. But we have in higher education enormously many elements which are not international. Coming back to my example in physics, when students from France in physics come to Stockholm, to Sweden, and then they find out that Swedish students in physics spend 3 times as much time on laboratories during their course of study than French students. Then they start pondering whether physics is universal, or whether physics is national. Even in this universities, and of course it's much more a debate when we talk about education, or if we talk about sociology, your field, my field. There we are much more aware, but also, let's say, the ranks, the payments, the control, the career structure within academia, the situation of university graduates in the countries. It's very different. Or take another example. I usually believe that we have the highest agreement internationally on higher education and thinking what a doctorate should be, where we have a high agreement. But we have among rich countries quota of doctorates of the population between 1% and more than 3%. Yeah, and countries which are the same economy and financially and academically absolutely similar. Yeah, doctorates 1%. Just to give examples how much we have specificities of the different countries. And of course, you know, everybody says so that this idea of Wilhelm von Humboldt about whatever unity of teaching and academic freedom and so has been taken up worldwide. If you look carefully, it's very different. So somebody said maybe it is at most a creative misunderstanding or real understanding that everybody in the world say we are doing what Humboldt has said 200 years ago. Yeah, enormous. But these differences do not exist in complete isolation. You know, there are areas where things have been very much in isolation. For example, you know, the traditions of social work in different European countries, dramatically different. But for decades, they did not know. A social worker in Netherlands did not know that the philosophy of social work is completely different to Germany. They did not know. They did not know, they didn't care. It was not important. Only now, with more international and European policies and question whether they could be professional mobile, suddenly they get interested. But in the area of higher education, I think we were already interested for a long time. Always on those kind. Yeah, there was the idea everywhere. We should find what are the best solutions for our universities and where is high quality research and teaching. Yeah, this interest was around a lot, but on average we can say it was more this idea looking around for best solutions was strongest at times of sense and crisis and reform. Yeah, then one looked more around. Yeah, but in normal years one was accustomed that there were differences. But I can tell you when I started doing higher education research in Germany, and I started very early to push some international competitive projects, and I found initially quite a disinterest by the professors, by the rectors, by the government. They always said, you cannot compare this. Of course, I can make a logical joke. You can even compare with pears, and they are fruits. but anyway, now I said that now it is more interesting to see around. But I think in the last 20 years, the interest in international comparison on higher education systems has grown. One is believing more that they are around global forces and that there's more need for international exchange. Yeah, and then we are looking more carefully how the other systems look like and whether we want to become closer. And of course, you know that Europe is an arena where we have a lot of talks about this question, whether we think more similar. You know that, for instance, this Bologna process, the idea of the Bologna process, of the Bologna Declaration is to create what some people call convergence system. Not necessarily identical system, but maybe we can say similar system. Yeah, to a high degree similar. Yeah, that one can interact more easily. So this idea is very much around. And so that's why I really wanted to ask, are we really also moving towards a European academic profession now? Yeah, as we talk to similar study programs, do all professions get similar? Yeah, or let's say, do they remain quite different. And this was, we had the opportunity to look at this. You know, we have not so many really comparative empirical research on phenomena of higher education. But in 1992, there was for the first time a survey on the academic profession in more than, I thought, 14 or 15 countries. And then some years later, some scholars came together and said, we want to do this again. Yeah, we want to see now, are we more similar than before? But also, what has changed in this period over 15 years. And here you see, I say I have information available on 12 European countries, and then I have two abbreviations. I have to explain this. This CAP. This is the name of a worldwide project with about 20 countries. This is CAP means the changing academic profession. And then later, we got 2 or 3 years later, we got some money to do a study on the academic profession in Europe. And this we call Euro, the academic profession in Europe. And we had some countries participated at this CAP study, but others came in this new European study, and then we combined this to a joint data set so that we have something of the money. And I was one of the coordinators of the CAP project, but I was then the coordinator of this European project. And there we started at the beginning making a very detailed account, what are our theories and knowledge prior to such a survey. Then we did a kind of questionnaire survey, sent to, in this altogether about 25,000 academics responded to this, and then we made detailed interviews on select issues. I try to explain later. Here our subject, these were the countries which were already included in this worldwide survey, and these are here in yellow. You see those countries which came newly in this European survey. Yeah, what I find, of course, a bit sad that Hungary is not in. But I called already, I was sitting together with Gabriela this time, and I said, there will be a third kind of study. The next generation will do it. I don't do it anymore. You see my gray hairs. So I don't want to have, this project is 10 years. It's hell. I wrote an article in the most famous journal. Yeah, it was my personal account. Why do international comparative projects get so often in troubles? And I wrote a story, and they accepted in our highest, most prestigious academic journal as a research contribution my complaints, you see, on this, because they thought this is really bad. But so, although I admit these complaints, still I encourage my Hungarian friends to join the next project, because my last sentence of this article was, it was hell, but I would do it again. But anyway, so I said there's most likely another one in 2017, and then we have another colors, and then Hungary, I guess, will be included. So you see, this I just select number of themes which I selected. We asked these professors to spend more than 1 hour to answer to written questionnaire. And I find every time when I prepare a questionnaire, people tell me, they warn me and say, do make the questionnaire very short, otherwise the response rate will be very low. You know this, my colleague who's also doing this. This is a general rumor about this questionnaire. But I have not found it. Yeah, in Germany, we succeed still having university graduates, a response rate of 50% for 1.5 hours, whereas another representative study is shorter and they have only 35% response rate. Both national representatives. Why? No, my belief is the most important thing for us is the opening up. It's the motivation at the beginning to tell people you should spend. Please spend some time and this is the reasons and this are the expected benefits. And I believe after many years that this starting motivation is more important for response rate than the length. Of course, I could not give them 5 years, 5 hours, this would not work. But I mean, in this question, whether the questionnaire is whatever, 20 minutes or 70 minutes, I believe motivation might be more important. We try to ask them everything about their career, how they started, how they spend their work time, what they consider important, how they consider, let's say, the issues of what is quality, and what they should do, and so how they perceive governance and management around, and many other things. How satisfied they are. I would not be able to show you everything. And I tell you what I did in the data which I presented here for looking whether we have European convergence. I excluded other institutions of higher education, only universities in charge of research and teaching. Because other institutions we know are more heterogeneous in Europe anyway. They have different background. They are diverse from the history. Whereas within universities we have much more. I believe that there are similarities across countries and similar aims, etc. So that's why I said if I want to test convergence also, I should not go in the field of other institutions. So I present to you data just for universities, but subdivided by seniors and juniors. When we did this, we said senior academics, we named those people who are called in the United States full professors or associate professors, not assistant professors, or we have now in Germany a new thing of junior professors. I think they are more similar to other junior professors. So we made a dividing line there. And it is relatively similar in different countries, namely that usually professors are appointed to a senior professor position in most countries between 40 and 45 years on average. Yesterday I read an article, Research on Midlife Crisis. And they found out that on average in the world, the strongest danger of midlife crisis is at the age of 43 or 44. So it's very interesting. Professors are opened the door to the bright future at the time where average people have their serious midlife crisis. I do not know, I have not yet analyzed what it means for the professoriate, but I found it interesting. I have to report to you as an open question. But I just read it yesterday when I started preparing for this meeting. I'm wondering what it means. But there is a dramatic shift from juniors to seniors. Of course, the ideals, what they should do, and their values are very similar. I can show you later. But the conditions are dramatically different. Here you see we talk about part-time employment. And here you see in most countries of Europe, more than 90% of professors are full-time employed. I do not talk about those people who just teach a single course and other professions, but I mean those who are really employed as professors at the institution. It is almost all countries, it is more than 90%. The only exception is the Netherlands. Netherlands is the only country in Europe where one had a strong policy for stimulating and facilitating part-time employment in order to get gender equality. And it works. In Holland, a man can go down from 100% without thinking, I'm not a man anymore. So it's but this is the only country in Europe. Yeah, so you see this in the statistics here. Yeah, this is 20% part-time employment. Whereas in junior staff, you see quite differences. Yeah, you see in Poland, in Italy, Finland, Ireland, almost as many junior staff, almost as few people are in part-time position as senior. Whereas you see in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, it's much more, junior part-time. But there we have to be careful in international comparison, because in some countries people are already employed when they have a first degree or a master's degree before the doctorate. Whereas in other countries they only employ after the doctorate. And in these countries like Switzerland, Austria and Germany, more than half of young people who have not yet a doctorate are employed, while working on the doctorate in the university, but they are all employed. Most of them are employed. So that's why there's a problem of comparison. But what is the rule of comparison? If I had only postdoctoral, then the difference would be smaller. But there's an even more discussion you see on short-term employment. The question, you see what kind of job security I have over the years. And there you find interesting, now there are some countries in Europe where not so many professors. 10, 15 years ago when we made the survey, more than 90% of professors were all permanent. But now recently in some countries they decided to change the system, and that many professors get 5 years contract, 6 years contract, and then assessment, and then possibly prolongation. So you see there is some difference now also among the professors. So but I said it's just opposite, it does not get more similar, it gets more different. Although we talk we talk European-wise about incentives and its impact on achievement, but the decisions the countries make are dramatically different. But here junior staff, this is very much a discussion. Of course, again, this is related to whether they are doctorate or others involved. But here you see there are some countries where most of the people, young people, are short-term employed, but there are some where the majority is or there has a long-term employment. But it is not just as some people would say in Scandinavia there are a better job security, but it's not the case. You see, in Norway there are almost as many short-term employed as in Germany. We found out that the Norwegian young researchers feel much more safer than the Germans. The Germans feel very nervous about this situation. But we found out that in Norway the salary differences between professors and junior staff are smaller. But the short-term employment versus long-term is not so much. So practically the job insecurity in Germany might be to a stronger extent, and people believe also depend on the salary level rather than on the question of the short-term employment. But there's a conflict of concepts. Some people say if you give too much job security, people get lazy. And you have to give them a certain degree of uncertainty is necessary for quality enhancement. Whereas others say, no, if they have a short-term contract, they think all the time about the contract and don't think about quality in academics. There are different interpretations around. It's difficult to say. But as I said, there we have just in different countries, different dominant policies. I go back now, I don't want to. Here, you will not be surprised. The biggest differences in Europe in numerical terms are the salary differences. Here you see, I just put together Switzerland and Poland. So it means a professor in Switzerland earns 8 times as much as a professor in Poland. Of course, there's a difference in purchasing power, but even if we control for purchasing power, it's very clear that the Swiss professors earn much more. But then we have also ask the people how much extra income you have beside your salary. I do not know how honest people are saying this, you see, but here you see in Netherlands they say we have only 1% extra income. In Poland they say 25%. But if I meet a Polish colleague and say how much extra income have Polish professors, then they say somewhere between 50 and 100%, they tell me. So they don't believe my 25%. Yeah, why? Because in Poland, it was interesting, our Polish colleague said, we only make surveys in public universities. We don't make surveys in private universities. Why? Because every professor works at least at one public and one private university. So we would ask the same people if you include private institutions, he said. But you see, there's a difference. You see, in some countries it reflects the other income and some advantage, but in some countries really you can say the salaries are so low that people are more or less forced to have other income. But another question is, of course, how much do the young people earn as compared to the seniors? And there you see, for instance, in Switzerland, maybe it's only about 45. Yeah, the young research scholars only earn about maybe 45%. Whereas you see in Norway, they earn almost 70%. Yeah, the young people. So you see, you have dramatic differences in the question what kind of salary raise you organize over the careers. And as you know, nowadays we encourage academics to be international mobile on the job. So you can imagine this is really a factor of incentive or possibly disincentive. Well, we have asked the people what their general understanding is about this unity of teaching and research. But we have not asked them, are you in favor of the unity of teaching and research? Probably the answers would have been too dogmatic. We just have asked them, we have asked them, well, I prefer clearly research, one and all. Or the second, now I'm in favor of a link between teaching and research, but I have a stronger I lean stronger towards research. The other, I'm in favor of both, but I lean stronger on teaching. And finally, you see, I'm really completely leaning towards teaching. Let's take the case of Germany. You see, only 13% would say we are one and only researchers. But you see here, more than 60% would say, yes, I'm in favor of relationship between teaching and research, but my preference is on the research side. Yeah, and only 20% would say, yes, I'm in favor of the combination, but my preference is on the teaching side. And finally, only how many others? 5 or 6% would say, I'm clearly a teacher. So I told you, we are called Hochschullehrer in Germany, so much about the Hochschullehrer in Germany. But anyway, you see, it's true for all European countries that there is a stronger inclination of research than of teaching. You see, this light green one is the longest everywhere. However, there are differences. You see, let's say it's in Poland it's 45, and in Italy almost 70. Yeah, so 1.5%. So there are differences. And then when you look, there are bigger differences among junior staff, than among senior staff. But this is related to the fact that in many European countries, we have quite a lot of junior staff who is just paid for doing research, but not teaching. Whereas others have both. And and this has certainly an impact, but it doesn't explain it at all, because in Italy many are paid for both, but they have a clear preference. So it has an influence, but it is not explaining the whole story. Here we have asked them really how they actually spend their time. And this is not percentages, These are hours. Yeah, we had also asked them to estimate how much time they spent. But I tell you what we did. We asked them, how much time do you spend during lecture period, during the semester, and how much outside? Because if you ask a professor how they spend time, professors only think about lecture period. We made a control group. We asked them only question. Another. Then we found out if you ask a professor how you spend your annually, they think only lecture period. So we get a more realistic way. We subdivide this. And we did it here. And here you see, maybe on average in Europe, I don't know, maybe let's say normally workers have to work something 40 hours or a little less. So you see in Germany, and in Switzerland, or in Ireland, they believe that they work whatever, 25 to 30% more, whereas in Norway, they just work like an ordinary worker. Junior staff even less than all. So you see, this is a different question. But otherwise, we thought, of course, you see differences by countries, but it's not extreme. But still, it's some difference. You see, in Austria, a professor believes that they spend almost twice as much time on research all over the year than on teaching, whereas in Norway, they believe that they spend about the same time. So although it's somewhat similar at first glance, if you look carefully, there are also substantial differences. Yeah, then we have to ask them about their opinion, what they are really taking, how they consider the character of their research or other research-like activities. And you see, of course, you would expect that here among professors this idea to do original research is high on the agenda. But when you look more carefully, then you find that many professors believe if I care for original research, it does not mean that I don't care for anything else. Rather, you will find that in some countries, like take here this example of Croatia, it's almost the same percentage of people who say, I care for original research, I care for synthesis of mind, I care for application of research, I care for social relevance of research. These are almost all the same. And there, you see, there are striking differences of country to what extent they consider original research as contradicting this other or compatible. And then there you also see change within countries. There are some countries where the views of the senior people are dramatically different, but then they get more similar in the new generation of juniors. If you look carefully, there are some examples of this where the juniors on average believe more strongly than the seniors that one can combine with different functions. It would take too much time to show this in the Yeah, then of course you know, sometimes we are nowadays trying to measure academic productivity in number of publications. And here you see this has not led to a very homogeneous attitude in the countries. We made an indicator, you see, where we put 3 points for books and 2 points for articles and something, and 1 for small reports or something like this. And according to this point system, we see Germany and Switzerland, they are with 55, and Poland is 30. Yeah, 1/4 of the publication. Or also Norway and the United Kingdom, even the United Kingdom, very famous for research. Yeah, they publish only half as much as the people as the seniors in Germany and Switzerland. And then you see there are also difference between seniors and juniors are varying. In some countries it's very similar. For instance, in Germany and Switzerland, juniors publish much less. So it seems to be easier for the professors to get their research. Okay, then we wanted to look at mobility. You see, but we want to include various types of mobility. Migration early in life, professional mobility later, mobility during the course of study, yeah, and outwards going, inwards going, upwards going, so we have a typology of differences. But if we could look at all the types of different things, then we find in Switzerland 64% of academics have a phase of having been in another country. Or in Ireland, even 66%. Whereas, you see, look at the other way around. In Finland, it is only 12%, in Poland, only 6%. Yeah, so there are dramatic differences, yeah, to what extent one has had phases, yeah, of experience in another country. And you see, in looking at satisfaction, we have different questions. I give you two examples, time is progressing. Briefly, we first of all have asked them, do you think that your job is very much of a strain? Yeah, and then you see here in Croatia, they say very much of a strain, whereas in Italy and Norway, they say, oh, it's not so much of a strain. Yeah, it's not. But now you ask them about satisfaction. And there you find Croatians are very highly satisfied. So, what does it mean? Maybe the Croatians say, strain is beautiful. Yeah, whereas Norwegians would say, strain is a pain. Yeah, so, yeah, I think it's serious. You see, the question whether you think a load is a load, and it's hampering your life, or it's an interesting life, there you have different notions. Yeah, and everybody was very surprised. We had a German magazine on higher education. We sent the results to them, and what they did, they sent interviewers to Croatia to find out why, yeah, they said, if I want to say, what is the country with the most difficult image which we have on university professors in the world? In Europe, from the data, this journalist came to the conclusion, Croatia is the most typical European country. And they made interviews there. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, you can see how many different items you can take and take as. But again, you can say in satisfaction, you see if the Finnish more than 80% say I'm satisfied, and Britain only half. Those dramatic differences. The British are angry. The British academics are angry about the university management. They think they are chased around by the university management. Yeah. Okay, so this was my last result, but I wanted to show you. And you see, I decided just to give you a potpourri of 10 different things, yeah, which are interesting, which are related to your life, that you can see. And I say, for what I presented, I believe differences are still enormous. But I did not give you the data from our previous survey 15 years ago, because we had only 3 or 4 countries were included, so that you would have looked much individual. But I can say in some differences, European differences, have not diminished in the academic profession in the last 15 years. This I can say, please trust me, although I didn't give you the data right now. This would have been and this is an interesting phenomenon. Yeah, we're talking about globalization. Yeah, we're talking about increasing mobility and compatibility, creating compatibility, mutual recognition, etc., etc. But if it comes to the daily life and even to the philosophy of the people, yeah, and the working conditions of the people, in Europe we have still enormous national differences. What does it mean? Does it mean all our ideas that those are better than others are weak? Or does it mean we are so much national driven that we don't pay attention of this? It's difficult to say. I must say, I do not come to you with a clear-cut, wonderful explanation. I wanted to share with you this impression because it's part of your life. You are doing this. But obviously, we can, certainly we can say, there do not seem to be so enormous convergent pressures, yeah, in higher education, that academic profession in their conditions and their self-perception and activities felt pressured to become. So, it is nice, I can say, thank you for your invitation. I have learned a lot from going to different countries. I like the variety between different countries. I don't want to visit But some people would say, if you don't get conversion, so many countries will be banned. I don't know. Decide yourself. I end up only with a question mark. Thank you very much for your attention.
Few minutes left, and I invite you to raise questions or comment on the figures we just saw, presented by Professor Teichler. Yes. I know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's right. We have two Central Eastern European countries, and they are very different in these ideas. We believe in the 1990s that there would be enormous similarity in Central and Eastern European countries, partly because of conditions of economic catching up, salaries, and good work conditions, but also partly because the reaction to the old politicized regime was that there was much more emphasis on university autonomy in the Central and Eastern European countries in the 1990s. Whereas the West had talked already, they started this kind of utilitarian reform. In the East they said, no, now we want to get rid of the utilitarian. So it seemed as we had divided world at that time. But now I'm not sure anymore. So I say, no, we don't have this clear borderline anymore, but we have still surprising country differences. So it will be interesting when next time Hungary is saying, but I don't think that the results of Hungary will be very similar to those of Austria. Yes.
Next question.
Thank you for your excellent presentation. It was very interesting description about academic profession in Europe, and I'm interested in what do you think about the association between variables. For example, it would be interesting to know what is the connection between for example, security of employment and publication and performance. That means if you interpret publication as an achievement and security of employment as a success, what is the connection?
I told you about the downside of such a problematic team with people from 20, 25 countries, in each country 6 or 8 people involved, 200 people agreeing. When we have 200 academics together, we have at least 300 opinions, so it's very difficult. But now, in the meantime, we have more than 500 publications on this kind of work. And there, yes, I gave you very straightforward data, not so much of this now, but we did not find a clear evidence that job security is really very important for academic productivity. It's difficult. There are many other factors which came in. What we found, so that on average, international experience is positive for job satisfaction, for academic productivity, and things. It's just another example than the one you mentioned.
Further questions or comments? Please raise your hands and be energetic. If there is a temporary silence, I hope it is temporary. Let me raise a question. Probably this might be the last one. You studied also the Bologna process, which stood for a long time in the center of the educational policy discourse in this country. Do you think that the Bologna process was mostly an official, even I dare to say bureaucratic suggestion under which, as a roof, normal developments were going on. What was your impression or research?
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, you can say it is very interesting to study the Bologna process because there was an idea that we should move more towards convergence. Ironically, it was just in the structures of study program, but officially the motive was to facilitate mobility. But our previous research has come to the conclusion that degree structures is not the most important point for student mobility. Yeah, there are other factors like language, like let's say services for the students, and many other things are much more important than the degree structure. But somehow this idea emerged that this is, you have studied and your colleagues, I know, have given a very valuable overview of what is happening in Central European countries. Now you see in recent years there have been many efforts to summarize, for example, for the Bucharest conference of the Bologna process, they invited more than 50 scholars to write about this, and the title of these two books which came out exactly express this ambivalence. Do we move to a convergence or to specific or other specific profiles dominant? I think it's a mix. We have some areas where we get more similar. Yeah, for instance, more spread of accreditation and evaluation. More power of university leadership. Yeah, and of course in the formal structure of degrees and something else. So we have various areas where we get similarities. But really in terms of substance of curriculum, in transition rates from bachelor to master, and many other things, there's no indication for getting similarities. So I can make a list of 10 big points of slightly more similarities, but also a list of 10 big points where they remain different or even get more different. And I found, at least I find out in every country, they have some specific things which they say it's Bologna and that's why we follow. For instance, I was invited to be in Finland. They made a big self-evaluation of Bologna process in Finland. And then they asked me as the only outsider to comment it. I said, Finland is the only country which said one of the major targets of the Bologna process is to reduce dropout. I have not seen it in any. Yeah, okay, somewhere there have been some interpretation that the social dimension, 1 out of 10 things would be improved. Yeah, but in Finland, it is one of the 3 big things for Bologna process. Like for each country, I can tell you stories like this. So it's amazing how we at the same time talk about convergence and persistence of diversity, or even new emphasis on new national priorities.
Again, some more questions or remarks? The door is still open. If not, thank you very much. Thank you for the audience, and thank you, obviously, for Professor Teichler.